Thank you very much for introduction.
Thank you very much.
The extra box speaker.
One of these new fancy topics, insider risk management. Woohoo! No? Woohoo! Okay. Who of you has insider risk management in the company? A little bit. Mostly on a paper, lying in the desk. There's insider risk and concept and all of this. Yeah, okay. Good, okay. So let's talk a little bit about insider risk management and insider risk management in Microsoft 365, but also a little bit from the field. So I implement insider risk management also with Microsoft 365 now around 50 times. But yeah, there are some issues, some requirements, I have some more gray hairs. But yeah, I will talk about this today. And yeah, let's start a little bit. And yeah, where I am. My name is Raphael Kölner. I'm study law, one of these lawyers. They know a little bit about IT now. I study law, a little bit of economics, and start to work at Microsoft. And then I worked for some Microsoft partners and also for the big five like BDO or PwC. And now I founded my own company 1 year ago, like a lot of our MVP and regional director guys, about a company and a law firm. And together we have a lot of fun, and we make all of this compliance stuff, and also implementing insider risk and labeling and all of these funny things. And often they say, no, it's not so funny like Power Apps or adoption case. No, it's all together. It's also adoption and also Power Apps, and we can talk also about automation. But in another view. So in the view of working councils, lawyers, and all of these funny guys, they are lovely in our projects, or? Do you love lawyers in your project? No, that's okay. But there's someone here. So okay, I'm also one of these regional directors, 150 we have around the world, and yeah, we're talking about all of these business stuff. But we don't want to talk about the business stuff today, or a little bit also. We want to talk about insider risk management and how you find or how you know whether you have an insider or what happened. And I have a lot of examples. And we talk a little bit about insider risk management at itself, but also about the tool and also what we can do and what is the pre-requirements and all of these stuff. So a little bit, or I hope after the session you're a little bit an insider risk hero, so you can start with all of this. Okay, a little bit introduction, and I found this picture in the Microsoft stock images, and I see that, yeah, that's good. Looking into the eyes of the tiger, and see, yeah, everywhere we have an insider. And when you have a look into the statistics, and I have some statistics, that's very cool. You have a lot of databases where you have some statistics about insider. That's the same, and you know the sentence, you don't know you have an insider, but you have one. You have one or two. It is, they, for example, close the contract with a new company and bring the data from the old company with them to the new company, or like this. So, or you have insider, for example, this is more a compliance issue. For example, the cousin working for the competitor, and you are talking at the birthday party, and what you do here, and what you do here, and all of this. So, insider, we have to talk about it. And when we see the statistics, it's very expensive when you don't have a look at these insiders. So the most important question is, know your insiders. Who's the insiders, why they are insiders, and how we can track them. Because when we don't know what is the motivation of an insider, we don't know how to configure our tools. So we need an event, we need objective instruments, so we configure our IT tools. And one of these questions is, do you know your insider? Do you have risk management? All of these things, and often we say, no, we don't have it. If you're working in the finance industry or in the insurance industry, you need it today. But mostly, yeah, you have a paper where you have a concept and it's lying in your desk, so you can say, I have it. before the big five, PwC, BDO, whatever, comes and make a check of your company. Do you have this? Do you have the concepts for the regulations that you can work on the stock market, for example? And you say, yes, we have it. You have it on the paper, but in production, no. Or no, you have it as a concept, but you have it not in production. So let's talk a little bit more about insider risk management and what you can do. And I talked a little bit about the motivation, and in the next slide I make a little brainstorming, or not all brainstorming, but out of my experience and from these companies, I bring together what is the motivation to be an insider. And this is what I found in these last 6 years. Before we have an insider risk management in Microsoft 365, but we have other tools, and we talk also about the architecture today, what we can use before. Now we have insider risk, that's fine, but we need a combination out of tools in Microsoft 365. So the first thing is a bad boss. So you don't like your boss, you are in a team, for example, and in pandemic, I see it more and more, you are working from home, you don't see your team, and it's more important that you have drinks with your team together, an evening with a lot of beer and all of this, you don't have it, and often you have these, you have a bad boss, for example, in your yearly or every 6 months in your personal meetings, you said, I want to have more money or all of this, you know this, and your boss said no. And you said, okay, I look around and see what I have and where I go to a competitor or whatever. Bad team is also one of the motivations. Contract cancellation, when you have a bad boss, a bad team, and you cancel your contract, then it's one of the trigger. It can be a bad insider in the future, or it is a bad insider in this moment. And I see very often no company feeling, bad culture. So you say, you are not a part of a company. So you work for this company, it's okay, from 8 to 4 p.m. or like this, and you go and work and go away. But if a company has rise up or not, it's not your feeling, I work there. So this is also one of the things. And when you look into your company, and I don't want to know your company, so only for you, think about it. So that's also compliance. So think about it, what is your motivation, or think in your mind. Did you talk to the competitor? Did you talk to other guys about customers, about information? Did you send information to another one? Only for you. Think for you. Think about this. Is also, so maybe you are also an insider. So it's often very heavy to say no. And this is also one of the things. I see yesterday and the day before, I traveled a lot, you see it, 14 hours to converse, with a lot of airplanes, trains and all of this. And what you see also in trains, sitting, people and talking about customers, offers, talking about everything, sending emails and all of this, and you say, okay, what they want, what is the motivation? What do you think? What is the motivation? They make it here. Why they talk about the customers? Like, I'm working for Continental or I'm working for Mercedes-Benz and they have a data privacy leak and I'm here and I help them. And
networking, trying to impress.
Trying to impress, what? Sales, that's one of the motivations, and that's, for example, very often that newspapers, or for example, I know it from the Kicker, it's a newspaper magazine in Germany about Bundesliga and all of this. They have 100% Bahn tickets, and driving with a Bahn to Munich, for example, to Dortmund and to all of the Bundesliga clubs, and they heard in the trains more about the club's future than everywhere. So, and that is the same that's the same in business. If you travel to Frankfurt, to London, wonderful. Catching the first plane 6 o'clock in the morning, that's a business plane, you hear a lot. So you have more insiders that aren't insider in their perspective, but also the perspective of the company, they're an insider and leaked information. So that we have motivation and we have all of this. And from motivation, and we talked about the insiders, we need use cases. That's the next thing. You have to define use cases. And I found some use cases on the Microsoft side. I said, okay, this is for me a good starting. disclosure of confidential data, breaches of confidential. When we talk about it, we have a breach. Yeah. Often we have also data leaks, so we have a break of an NDA. We have data privacy issues, and all of this. So we have, with one situation, we have more than it's one fold. It's a bunch of errors, and often the companies don't have a process for this. For example, they have a process for a break of NDA, okay? But they don't have, at the same time, the process, for example, in Europe, yes, you have to contact the data privacy agency, national, and said, we have a data breach. They are talking about people outside, and they lose a USB stick, they send emails to another one, or like this, and this is very interesting. And I want to talk a little bit in this use case thing, what happened to me, or what happened in the last years. And I have one of these interesting things. It was a part with Microsoft 365 in the beginning of Power Automate. It called Flow. Who knows it? Who tested Flow? Oh, someone, yeah, 50% of the room tested also Flow. And what happened? One of the people said, okay, it's Flow, it's wonderful. There's a default template in Flow. Store or save every attachment of an email in your OneDrive. You know it? This is one of the favorite top five of Power Automate. What he did? Save every attachment to a Google Doc. And who has access to the Google Docs? The competitor. So the insider, with more automation like Power Automate, the insiders have more and more the opportunity to automate the flow of information. And years before, in the beginning, when it called Flow, it was very heavy to find these insider. We know that someone knows internal information at the same time when we send an email. But we don't know who of these 25 people in the email, in the distribution list, leaks the information. And it must be automatically, because we have an insider in the other company. They told us that they have the information in the same second we send it out. So it must be an automation. So we said, okay, it must be Flow. But in the beginning of Power Automation, do you have a monitoring tool or everything? No, you have nothing. So it was very heavy to find. What we do at the end, we use Microsoft Cloud App Security, okay, Defender for Cloud today, and we go to the HR department and said, okay, who cancels a contract out of this team? We make a little bit of a detective. But we need 3 weeks. And 3 weeks of data leaks process. That was heavy. What we do at the end, we sending irregulated or false information. And then we send it the false information, or we send different information to the 35 people. And this information was leaked, we know, okay, who is the bad guy. Yeah, we turn it around. That was the only idea how to find the insider in these times. Today, we have monitoring. We know who created and Power Automate workflow and all of this. Yeah. But in this time, yes, we can block the external, that's what you can do today, but often you can't block these external connectors because some of your, for example, some of your applications like Power Apps need this connector because, yes, you need to talk to Google or whatever.
But you can scope it.
Yeah, I know. Today, it's fine, but this is a story, it's called Flow, so some years ago. But it's very interesting. So you're sitting in the IT department and sometimes you're a detective. Scotland Yard, we are in England, so. Okay, have a look a little bit at stats, and I Googled and Binged a little bit and found all of these stats. And statistics, that's also at Microsoft, when you have the Microsoft marketing slides, you have also some of these, and that's very interesting that, there are millions, and you have definitely a risk with insiders. And you have an insider in your company, yes, and you have to deal with it and you have to know it. And often the companies don't know it. that they have an insider, but they have an insider. That's the same, and in this part it's more and more important because, yes, we have a rise up of cybersecurity issues, and insider is also a cybersecurity issue for your business data and for the personal data too. So it's not only security, it's also data privacy and all of this. So that's very interesting, and when we have a look a little bit closer, and here we talked a little bit about motivation and all of this, insider threat attacks, and when we have a look here, companies have had an insider attack in the last years, in the past year, 61%. So yes, the most of the companies has an insider attack. The most don't know it, but currently, yes, with the monitoring, warnings and all of this, they know it and they know, okay, we have an insider, and with Microsoft Insider Risk Management, Microsoft put all of these together in one tool, or not all, but the most. Hopefully in the future more and more. In Microsoft Priva Insider Risk Management, when we will see, and we'll talk a little bit later about it. So that's very interesting, and we have also top motivations, and we talked about motivations before. So we see, have a look in the statistics, yeah, fraud, monetary gain, IP thief is more and more, and yeah, monetary is also one. So I know, and we have, for example, in Germany, we have two companies, and also this NTT is also a Microsoft partner. You can go to them and say, okay, please make a attack. Make a social attack to our people with a nice guy or a nice woman, and ask them. And we make it. I make it also with some other Microsoft partners and security companies. To one of my customers, we go there and said, okay, please have a nice woman, and the woman, we know that the employee goes per train every morning to the company, and the woman, yeah, sitting every morning next to the guy. And at the end we see, yeah, there's a data leak, and she gets a lot of information. So this is one what that was heavy to control with an IT system, but we have to think about it. Okay. We have the motivation, we have statistics, we talked about the insider itself, and now we need to find the insider. And the main thing we talk about this is process, team, and how we configure our policies and warnings, and what we need for this. And the main question often is, who of the people or who of the departments has the task to find the insider? And I said, yeah, that's for me also the compliance officer or the compliance department. So a lot of companies don't have a compliance department. They have a CISO, data privacy, and all of this. They don't have one. So you have to start to create a compliance department, 2 people, 3 people, and bring the people together. That's the same discussion with labeling. No, labeling before, we all start with data labeling, and the MVP guys here in the crowd will see when we start, okay, yeah, but which label we need? Yeah, ask your compliance officer. No, we don't have a compliance officer. Ask your department. Or the department said, we have confidential information, yes, but which label, I don't know. So same discussion here. You need someone who has a head of it, and often it's, for me, it's a compliance officer, and was also very, very interesting, and it's also like insider risk and communication compliance. A new job role in this department is created, the data analyst. We need data analysts in these teams, because often I implementate communication compliance and insider risk for an international bank, and the compliance officers are the leading teams in these different countries, Singapore, Australia, USA, UK, Germany, Netherlands, France, that's okay, but they have to create the policies, okay, but they have also to analyze. And then we have an issue. But the normal compliance officer are not a data analyst or data handling or big data guy or woman. So often we see, okay, when we have a bigger company, let's start, and we have a data analyst or data scientist in the team. Best is 2, that helps us with insider risk, and also in the compliance team with communication compliance and all of the other tools to handle all of these data we have at the end. Then HR department, yeah, we needed partly IT security, also compliance officer, IT security, data handling, data privacy, yes, it's also a data privacy fault or a risk every time, and extended one, and extended we have all, often, for example, in Switzerland, Switzerland, Austria, and also in Germany, the Working Council, in France too. There's a Working Council as a part, yeah. The insider is an employee, and the Working Council protects the employee. So we have to talk with the Working Council about it, and the Executive Board, yeah. We have an insider, we have to talk with our CEOs and talk about it. But there we have a lot of interesting discussions, also with the data privacy and the Working Council. And what is the very interesting discussion topic? What do you mean? What I have to discuss? The Working Council said, okay, when you control the chat and you control the attachments and you control this user, you have to ask the user before. And we evidently said, no, we don't want to ask. You send him an email that he is controlled. We said, no, when we send him an email, we don't find it, or he finds the holes who communicate. And one of these black holes, what do you know? Or when you remember insider risk, communication, compliance, all of this, what is the big issue or black hole in Microsoft 365 today?
Probably the user.
Yeah? One more. I mean signals or information. What in my communication compliance session yesterday, 2 days before in Vienna, I asked, which is, you are the compliance guys, and you know how the product works, you know the backgrounds, and when you know this, what you can do to go to someone like, I go to you and said, you are an asshole, and blah, 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 blah. Or I talk with insider informations. What I would do, what not can be scanned today, but in the future it will. Any ideas? Make a phone call. Teams via SBC or like this, make a call. It's not scanned and not analyzed today. Pictures, yes, OCR.
But is it recorded?
When you record it, yes, but normally in banks and insurance companies, more in banks, it recorded only the compliance, with the compliance recording when you talk to a customer or like this. But when you talk to another guy in your company, that's a normal meeting. That's not the expensive compliance recording, like LuaWare from Switzerland or like this. You don't have it. So currently, yes, that is for example, this is one of the reasons why I talk to every company, it's a regulated company, and said, okay, please activate transcription for Teams meetings. Then you activate transcription for Teams meetings. Yes, it can be scanned. So, but hopefully in the future, we can have also scanned the audio management. So, one more, and I talked a lot, but I have some time. We talked a lot about it, but one is also very interesting, and this is one of my main parts. Insider risk management is a boss level task. That's often I ask, okay, I need a compliance team, where's the compliance team, in which level is the compliance team, which level has the insider risk task and all of this. And for me, the same like data privacy officer, compliance officer report to the executive board, and there we have the typical departments, and the compliance officer need to be a role under the executive board. Why? I see it often that the compliance officer is a part of the IT department, for example. Yeah, I see it, because the IT department hosts all of the tools. So the compliance officer must be a part of the IT department, because there are the information, there are the chats, there are the communication, there are the hosting of all the... Why it's wrong?
Well, the executive board could have the broadest breach of data across the entire company, so it's got to start with them and come down.
Yeah, correct. Plus?
Well, they're the ones making the decisions. They can enforce the policies on everyone.
Correct. Here you have the decision board, and you need, and this is what I said also to the compliance officer and to the company. I said you implement insider risk management, you sell the licensing, you pay for the licensing, you create policies, all of this. But what you have to do also is to make a 6-month or yearly report about it. and give it to the executive board, so that you can say, like the data privacy officer, this is the issue, these are our black holes in the company, and this is what we can't recognize today. We need help, or we need more policies, we need more actions, all of this. And also what we do is that the compliance officer get IT lessons, trainings, all of this, to create the policies that you don't need a task in ServiceNow that the IT create you a policy. No, that's not the best idea. Because the IT guys talking, they're talking to each other. Okay. When we have a look more and more in IT into Microsoft 365, the first thing I do is, okay, let's have a look into the IT structure and the structure of tools. Because insider risk management isn't a tool that you can pay for at its own. So you can't go and I have Microsoft 365 Office 365 E3 or E1 and I pay and I ordered insider risk. What do you think? Do it help? No. You need a bunch of tools together. And so for me it's very interesting, have a look into the architecture. You know the security architecture slides, and here, security leadership, risk management. Wonderful. We have everything on the slide for Microsoft, but I think no one reads the slides or understand everything. So when you have a look on these typical risk management, and this is the newest one of the cybersecurity architecture for Microsoft. Have a look at it. And when you have a look at it, yes, we find insider risk. Risk management, people, insider risk. Yes, it's on the slide. But often no one knows, and that's for me very interesting. Yeah, we have all of this. We know a little bit how to structure. So we not only look to, yes, it's also important, but don't look to endpoint management, labeling, all of this, fine. Insider risk is also part of this structure. And when we have a look more and more, incidents reports, all of this, yes. And we have also run books in Azure Sentinel. I created also for insider risk, because when we have all information Azure Sentinel, we use insider risk and Azure Sentinel together. That is one of the interesting parts. And I go a little bit forward when we have also the security roles. And when we have a look into the roles, security leaderships, we have also, yes, a little bit more, people security, identity, security roles, and we find all of this too. So we need here also, people security is also part of identity team, so we have to combine a lot of tools, and when we have a look a little bit deeper, and I jump a little bit into the biggest ones. This is a big slide. You can make 1 week and talking about it, and it's not the end. What you find here, insider risk, yes. In the whole framework, yes. Yeah, and you have the tool here. People security, insider risk, from identity to insider risk to DLP to endpoint. And you see, and this is, the slide is full of tools. But for me, I need a lot of arrows or a lot of lines from insider risk to endpoint, to identity, to labeling, you know what I mean? So it's connected to everyone, to everything. So that is also when I make a list of my recommendations. When you start with insider risk, please do not start with insider risk itself. Start, for example, with endpoint, Microsoft Information Protection. What we need more? Microsoft Preview Data Lifecycle, Microsoft Communication Compliance, Insider Risk, Zero Trust, Power Automate, okay, I have the example about Power Automate, and SharePoint Online and a little bit Teams, because the compliance officer needs a team with the SharePoint side to, with a list, to have a little bit of a database, also with information you can add and you can combine with insider risk management. And what I see more and more, and this is when we have a look into the preview, and I switch to the policies, and then you see the connection, all of it. We have a lot of new preview features and preview policies. And I like the new policies. New policies are security policy violation, general security violation, security policy violation by departing user, by distinguished users, by priority users, all of this. This is what I do before with those insider risks with which to? With? Sentinel, yes, for middle market, with Defender for Cloud, MCAS, and warnings and reports. So I make warnings on, for example, someone downloaded 60 files in 5 minutes. Please send me a warning.
Using the alert.
Yes. And now you can do it with insider risk management, but what you need for this, and I make a list because of optional ones. For example, HR detector, HR data connector is an optional one. But for this, you need Microsoft Endpoint Defender. You need the Intune. Back to the old word, you need Intune. So often you need Intune, you need DLP, and you need data labeling. So yes, you can do it with the warnings and policies, all of this. But with insider risk management, you have everything in one tool. But before you have to implement the other things. And then it works really great. And often I have consultants and also customers said, for insider risk management I have to pay for E5. And we have E3, and why we have to pay for Microsoft compliance upgrade. Some of the other MVPs here, we have every time the same discussions, why we need auto labeling, why we need this. And I said, okay, yes, that's fine that your IT team knows that you can set warnings and all of these and data, but your compliance team, do you want that your compliance team get a global admin? To make it different? No. Yeah, but your compliance team is the team who has to create the policies. No, we don't want. Okay, use insider risk, give them the insider risk role, manager, analyst, viewer, whatever. The working councils get, for example, a viewer role for some days in a month to have a look at it, and then the compliance team can create policy and rules. For example, data thief, data leak. One of the newest is also the health recorder misuse. That's also one. And out of the practice, when we talked about policies and these connectors, what do you think, which connector I only implemented 3% of 50 customers? We have some connectors here, the HR connector, the physical badging connector, this is really new. Which DLP, okay, DLP endpoint. Which connector is the less one?
Less use, too.
Yeah, less use. Not more, less use and most use.
The HR connector links one?
Yeah. Physical badging, yeah. Physical badging is new, but this is the less one because a lot of these physical access management systems we can't connect today, and often the people and also the compliance officers have only a small view on the topic. They don't know that also the physical access is one. That's why, because I talked at the beginning of the session about the motivation of they're talking in trains. So you need more information together. And this is what I talk also to these guys and also the compliance guys. Insider risk management, yes, but this is the insider risk management for Microsoft 365 when you don't connect your connectors. So that's not a tool for everything. You know?
You have to ask yourself how much you have to do at the very beginning, because you're only enriching, of course.
Correct. But with these connectors, you can bring more and more information together. That's also why I love the data connectors from Microsoft Compliance Center. You have more and more. You can add WhatsApp, for example. You can add Jira, Trello, Slack, and all of this to control this information. And one more. When we have this policy, we have the licensing. Licensing is, we have Microsoft 365, that's everything included. When you have enterprise mobility, Microsoft 365 E3, then you get Microsoft E5 compliance, $12 per month, and you have insider risk also in this bundle. It's often the customers say, I want to buy only insider risk. and said, no, from licensing it's not possible, and that's right, because you need DLP, endpoint management, so you need the other licensing that it runs. But often the customer don't understand. And for me, it's one more, yeah, you get EA, CSP, direct selling, or credit card is also possible. For me, but very interesting, go back, very interesting is, do you have a look where insider risk management is in the contracts from Microsoft? Contracts means a enterprise agreement, additional contracts like the NDA one or insurance ones, M399, or where you find insider risk in the contracts. When you have good eyes, you see it on the next slide, but do you have a look at it? Because this is also once, when you use Microsoft compliance tools, you have to check the tool itself too. So you have to talk with your IT security department about insider risk management, also with your data privacy. And both of them ask, okay, where's the SLA for the tool? Where the data will be proceed? And then you have to look into contracts. And I'm the guy, I love contracts, so I look into the contracts. Where you find insider risk? No one?
Very at the bottom.
I look for you. I look for you, my insider risk, and this is very cool, because, for example, Viva Goals is not a part of contracts, but today insider risk is a part of the Microsoft enterprise agreement and of those contracts. Enterprise agreement, for example, for bigger companies, it's a part of the Microsoft 365 compliance services, insider risk management, communication compliance, information governance, information protection. Okay, we don't find purview, hopefully next month, so the old names, but we found it here, insider risk management, so it's in the list of the product terms, so DPA, okay, enterprise agreement, okay, additional contracts, okay, so we are in the typical data privacy green arrow area. Very interesting also. Do we have for Microsoft compliance services SOC 1 Typ 2? Yes. SOC 2 Typ 2? Yes. So the security officer, oh, cool, okay, green arrow, we can go forward. But you have to know where it is. So look into the product terms. In the product terms, you also find the answer to where the data are stored and proceed. If customer parents attended in Austria, Germany, UK, United Kingdom, Microsoft will store the following customer data address only in that geo. But not everything, what is stored outside maybe, when you add a connector and the connector is proceed outside, when you add, for example, WhatsApp, it's proceed also in USA because the connector works in USA, that's fine, but the basement of the tool is proceed there. So it's very easy when you know where it is in the contracts, okay? Good. How much minute I have? 10, no? 5, 7, oh.
5, yeah.
5 now. Yeah, 5 is good. Okay. What I also like, and we go in the last minutes a little bit into the tool, this is also one of the newer ones. It's often that the people started and said, okay, what I have to do at first to start with insider risk. And I like this, turn on auditing, yeah? Often you have to do it, or often, yeah, you have to do it because data privacy officer said, auditing no, but we need it, for example, also for support. Get permission to use insider risk, you choose your team, choose your policy indicators, create a policy, and you see also what is optional and what is required, and I like it to start. What I add here is every time implement DLP, data information protection, Microsoft Purview information protection, and endpoint manager. Well, when you implement this, or when you do not implement, and you don't have implemented it, and let's switch very fast into my demo environment. I will show it to you, and I go here. So the portal is very fast. I reload. I have an internet connection? Yes. When you start to create policies and you see that you don't have the endpoint manager, for example, you don't have a license, then you get an error message. And this is what I'm waiting here. I will show it to you because in this tenant, I don't have it. So, create policy. We all know it, working in this portal, wonderful. You can do it also with PowerShell, but we have to explain with the compliance team. You can't explain the compliance team, make it via PowerShell. No. So we go here, for example, the new security policy. As you see here, your organization do not have Microsoft Defender for endpoint. So the checklist is okay, but the checklist is not enough. And at the end, to create, and this is the last one, we talked a lot about insider risk out of the field and out of my companies and out of the ideas. But the interesting things is, wait, I only want to show it, and you see it here. You have these optional pre-requirements. We talked about a data connector and all of this. And when you use the events and the policies, you need the triggering event and the detected activities. You see it here. And this is the both ones I talked with the customer about and said, okay, do we need these results? That's also one. The compliance team saying, we do it, and at the end we found the insider. No. You get information about what happened, and then you have to look at the data to find the insider. So that's not automatically there's an insider. So that is also very, very important to talk about it, because often, and this was my fault in the beginning, I go to the company and say, yep, that is okay, we have DLP, we have endpoint protection, Intune is managed devices, all fine. Here you can edit a policy, it's not very heavy, 5 to 6 clicks, and you have to create a policy, you have a policy. But at the end, you don't get the insider, you get data. And you have to filter the data to find the insider. So this is what you have to do, and this is out of my last hint in this session. When you implement Microsoft Insider Risk Management and you talk to the compliance guys who create the policies, and when you don't have a data analyst or a data analyst team to help the compliance team, explain that they have to handle with data and fight the insider at the end, and they have to do something. It's not only activate the license and I found all insider in my company. Okay? So, thank you very much. We have time for questions, but we have time for questions also outside.
Any quick questions? Quick questions?
Quick questions?
Want to play with the box? No?
It's interesting such an idea.
Yeah.
They're like, no, let's get to the prize.
Prize! Oh, the end is the interesting thing. I mean the prize, not the session. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it a little bit.
Yes.
A little bit about the experience.
All right, I'll stop recording while